Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming today. It's an important day because we're about to come on to New Year's Eve. And New Year's Eve, as we all know here in Las Vegas, is a time to celebrate, it's a time to have fun, it's a time to enjoy family and friends. But it's also a time to be careful and to think about the choices we all make. Before we get started, I want to recognize, of course, Sheriff Joe Lombardo. Sheriff, thank you so much for allowing us to come to your headquarters. Nevada Highway Patrol Colonel Dan Solo, North Las Vegas Police Chief Pam Ojeda, thank you, Chief, for attending today. Henderson Chief Fedric Andres, Chief, thank you so much for coming today. Also, Nevada Department of Public Safety PIO Andrew Bennett, who runs an organization called Zero Fatalities, which obviously is very relevant to our discussion today. And last and certainly not least, Sandy Heverly from Stop DUI. Sandy, you've been an incredible person in this community for decades now, so thank you for coming today. The purpose of today's discussion is to emphasize and to urge safe driving on New Year's Eve. Now, I use that term safe driving because it encompasses so much. Las Vegas is a great city. I've lived here almost 40 years. It's a great place to celebrate the new year. And we want people to enjoy themselves, spending time with family and friends, of course. It's okay to have fun and to party. It's okay to have fun and to party. But you have to be responsible about the choices you make. You need to think about the consequences of your decisions, and that's what our discussion is going to be about today. So I'd like to invite Sheriff Lombardo to make a few remarks. We're going to have a couple other speakers, and then I'm going to close with some comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So I hope everybody understands the importance of today's conference and the reason why we're here today. Obviously, last week, we gave you a briefing on the events taking place for New Year's Eve and the celebration that's going to take place along the Strip in the downtown corridor. But this is bigger associated with the surrounding party involved with New Year's Eve. You know, every year we experience a fatality in direct correlation to New Year's Eve celebration. And DUI is a unique crime. It's not made out of emotion, desperation, or greed. It's made out of ignorance. So this morning I was watching the news, and the reporter said 40% of all people celebrating New Year's Eve will be over-intoxicated. That's a big issue for me as a head law enforcement officer and for you as a community member. 40%, that's a big number. So, and it's inexcusable in today's resource available answers. You got Lyft, friends, family, Uber, taxis, everything associated with making you have a successful party, enjoying yourself, and getting home safely. So that 40% leaving Fremont Street, the Strip, getting into a vehicle is unacceptable. So today's intent is to bring that to the highest level in concern for law enforcement and to advise the community to utilize those resources available. And additionally, we at LVMPD, along with our fellow partner agencies and law enforcement and joining forces, traffic enforcement, will be saturating the Las Vegas community, throughout the community, with the intent on arresting and prosecuting individuals arrested for DUI and or DUI-involved accidents. It's troublesome to me, all the communication Sandy Heverly and everybody's done with this special issue, that we continue to rise in the number of arrests associated with DUI. In my jurisdiction alone, 11% increase in DUI arrests for 2019. So the intent today is for everybody to be aware. We will be out there with saturation enforcement, yet we want you to enjoy yourself. And with the DA standing behind me, that we will ensure prosecution if, in fact, you are arrested for the associated crime. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Colonel Daniel Solo with the Nevada Highway Patrol. As 2019 draws to a close, another year has passed where we have realized a significant reduction in fatal crashes throughout our state. The Highway Patrol, along with our partners at LVMPD, Henderson, North Las Vegas, and throughout the state, and in conjunction with the Clark County District Attorney's Office, is committed to keeping these numbers moving in the right direction, closer to zero. But even with the reduced number of crashes this year, the number of people hurt and killed in motor vehicle collisions on our community's roadways is still too high. The leading causes of these crashes continue to be distracted driving, speeding, not using seat belts or child restraints, and most commonly driving under the influence. As we turn the calendar to 2020 and celebrate New Year's, note the multi-agency DUI strike team will be patrolling the Valley streets, supplemented with additional troopers and officers from all agencies looking for those who start the new year out making bad decisions. And make no doubt about it, the decision to drive after drinking, partying, smoking, and becoming impaired is a bad decision. Please make the right choices. Slow down, buckle up, put the phone down, and have a plan to get home safely after celebrating. Thank you.
Sandy, would you like to come up now? And before Sandy speaks, come on up here, Sandy. I don't know if any of you know who Sandy Heverly is, but she is with the organization called Stop DUI.
Correct.
And she's been working in this community for as long as I've been here, which is
36 years.
36 years. And she works every single day with the families and the victims who have suffered from impaired drivers. I can't think of anybody who knows the pain and the suffering more than Sandy Heverly. So Sandy, thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, thank you, Steve. First, I want to say, on behalf of Stop DUI, I want to thank all of our law enforcement agencies, District Attorney Steve Wolfson, and of course Sheriff Lombardo, and all of the chiefs that are here, and the wonderful, wonderful effort that they're going to make to keep our community safe. I would like you to know that by midnight tonight, when that clock strikes 12 o'clock, 749 people will have been killed and injured in alcohol-related crashes. And in the next 2 days, we can expect those numbers to escalate. 749 people will be killed and injured by midnight tonight. And I hope that the viewers that are seeing this news conference today will listen up and take heed and take advantage of the life-saving alternatives that are available to them. It's easy. So many alternatives. And for those who may be watching that actually do drive under the influence, I have a message for you. You need to listen up. Just because you've been able to get home safely countless times without being arrested, you've been able to get home without killing or injuring anyone, does not make you the exception to the rule. And one day your luck will run out. And I will also tell you that if anyone is killed by a DUI driver over these next 2 holidays, I can assure you that the Stop DUI organization will use every resource and everything that we have within our power to encourage our district attorney's office to charge you with second-degree murder. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Just a few other remarks. This year alone, the DA's office charged nearly 300 people with felony DUI involving death or substantial bodily injury, and many more people were charged with repeat DUI offenses. That's hundreds of people that are being charged to this day after all of the attention we bring to this issue. There are still hundreds of people that ignore the difference between right and wrong and make bad choices. Think about your loved ones, your family, and other families whose lives will be ruined by your stupid and reckless decisions. Hear it now and hear it clear. If you drive after drinking, you will go to jail. If you drive after drinking and you injure or kill somebody, you will go to prison. not only is your life ruined, but you've harmed or killed others. You've ruined your family and many other families as well. And then one other thing. This is not just about impaired drivers. Slow down. I was driving a couple of nights ago, and I'm going 35 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and some guy just blasts by me, must have been going 65, 70 miles an hour. Speeding. Speeding is the #1 contributor to traffic accidents, so slow down. I'd like to talk about one case in particular. It involves Father Fernando Casca Benlero. 10 days ago, Father Benlero, an 86-year-old pastor, was killed by a speeder traveling more than 80 miles an hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. Speed kills. In the last 3 days, I've received 15 letters in the form of an email from family members. And I want to read you just a couple of passages. This is from a nephew. I received emails from nieces, nephews, and grandchildren of this 86-year-old pastor who was killed by a speeder. As I write this, people are mourning Father Benlero's demise, not only in Las Vegas, but in Omaha and in the Philippines, his home country. He grew up in the Philippines. He was referred by his grandchildren as Lolo Dodoy. Lolo Dodoy did not deserve this death. This tragedy might have happened to anybody. It might have killed the dreams of a 5-year-old, a father going home to his family for dinner, or a son just wanting to visit his mother. This act of recklessness should be unforgiven, for it puts the lives of people in danger, people who have families to go home to and moments still sought after. From another nephew, please consider that Father Benlero was a priest. His death was senseless and the accused needs to be punished. His horrible and untimely death caused us much suffering as he was well loved. For those folks who hopefully watch some of the newscasts, I don't want to see this tomorrow morning. I don't want to see this Wednesday morning. This is the picture of a fiery crash that just occurred a few days ago. People die in these accidents. Father Benlero died in an accident where his vehicle was crushed by a speeder. It can happen to any of us in any given moment, unless people make good choices. It's all about choices. It's all about good choices. So we in law enforcement are urging all of you folks who are listening to this newscast to make good choices. It's just not worth it, because if you don't make good choices, you're going to go to jail and you're going to go to prison, and I will see to that. So thank you for coming today. If any of you have any questions, we'd entertain some questions.
Really, anybody in the law enforcement community, we saw 2 officers injured last year on New Year's Eve as a result of a suspected intoxicated driver striking them. Just if somebody could talk about all the officers out there tomorrow and the kind of procedures that they go through to make sure that they're safe as well as the community is as well, I appreciate it.
Could you clarify the question a little bit better?
Yeah, so they're going to be out and trying to keep the community safe, but they've also got to keep themselves safe as well. If you wouldn't mind to give me a rundown of the things that they do to try to protect themselves while they're on the roadways.
Yeah, a lot of that is backed up with their training they received throughout their careers. A lot of people don't understand how dangerous an individual car stop could be for an officer. Unknown driver, first of all, and foremost. And quite often, I personally know 3 different officers that work for me that have life-debilitating injuries as a result of being on a car stop and subsequently being struck by a DUI driver. So we warn them, we advise them of that particular issue, and then our training is associated with preventing that issue from occurring. Yeah, it's going to happen. That's the nature of the beast of the business we're in, but we have all the resources available for them to be successful for the continuance of their career. And that's an important piece, and I'm glad you brought up that question, is quite often we forget about the people that are doing the enforcement arm in this type of crime. But it's just as important as the people that commit it and the victims associated with it. So the training, the best way I can answer that is the training helps prevent that. Any other questions?
How often do you keep in touch with your fatal traffic unit? Usually response to crashes, and I know this past month they've responded to quite a few.
Are you making reference to the wellness of the officers? Yeah, that's a constant issue that we deal with in law enforcement. It's across the board. It's not just with the traffic, but in particular traffic, we've had some significant accidents occur here in the last 2 months that would affect the psyche. So we have a pretty robust program here internally, as do the other agencies, and that's the Employee Assistance Program. We make available all the resources available to any normal citizen, but in particular to the law enforcement community to deal with that type of PTSD syndrome. So yeah, the communication has increased in the last 2 months because there's a lot of things that go along with that. They take it home with them. But that's also why they raise their right hand to protect the community.
I do have a quick one for Andrew Bennett as well. The joint task force that has been cracking down for, I believe, more than a year at this point, recently passed 1,300 DUI arrests. Is that correct?
Just approaching 1,300, yes.
Talk a little bit about how that joint task force has affected some of the numbers that we are seeing going into New Year's in terms of total fatal crashes, DUI, things along those lines.
So it's first important to thank both Colonel Solo and Sheriff Lombardo for their continued support of the DUI strike team, which was the state's first full-time DUI enforcement unit in the state of Nevada. With those 1,300 arrests, we are going to see an increase in overall DUI arrest numbers. We would prefer that people make that decision to stop driving impaired before they make that decision to get behind the wheel, but it's important for us that we have the resources through the 26 agencies that our office works with to provide that overtime funding, or with the DUI strike team. It's imperative that we have those resources out there. Right now is the time for education. Tomorrow night is the time for enforcement, and we will have the enforcement, and we encourage everybody to call 911 or Star and HP if they're on the freeway to report anything suspicious like a suspected impaired driver.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you all very much for coming. Please put it out there on every newscast between now and next year.